people have got to immerse themselves in communities and find the right fit for them. There's not a one-size-fits-all.
Welcome into Turnkey on Queen City News Plus, your go-to show for everything real estate in the Carolinas. We dive into the latest market trends, the do's and don'ts of the industry, and provide expert advice on navigating this dynamic landscape that we call home. I am your host, Morgan Francis, and a lot of people might have the question of, should I dip my toes into the real estate market? How do I know that my investment is safe? And to help answer some of those questions and provide some context, we're going to bring in the past president of Canopy Realtor Association, Tiffany Johannes. Tiffany, thank you for coming on Turnkey today.
Morgan, thank you so much for having me today.
So, Canopy Realtor Association, what is that?
Canopy Realtor Association is our regional realtor association, and we are throughout the Charlotte region, and we actually go up into the mountain areas like Asheville and Waynesville in that area. So we cover a large, vast area of North Carolina.
So what do you guys do? I mean, you say cover. What does cover mean?
So
what does that look like?
Cover, we have our Realtor Association, which is mainly our Charlotte region and Haywood County. And we are working with realtors. We're helping homeowners and property rights. We are making sure that from a standpoint of even just lobbying or going to the state or to the city or national level, which we're all going to be at next week or week after next, we're focused on property rights and protecting property rights, finding ways to make home ownership more affordable. If there are ways to change zonings or improve ways that builders can help us, we're doing those types of things, and even tax deductions for mortgage interest and things like that, protecting homeowners' rights, basically.
So when you were the president of Canopy Realtor Association, are you also a real estate agent out there doing that? Is it a two-hat role?
It is. That is my volunteer commitment, was the past president, and I'm still on the executive committee working to improve our organization, help our agents lift up consumers in our marketplace. But I also work full-time as an agent and as the general manager of RE/MAX Executive here in Charlotte, and we have about 20 offices throughout the Carolinas.
So safe to say you're a little busy, just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
What would be a top goal of yours in terms of, you mentioned lobbying, what would be a primary focus for real estate agents that they would love to see implemented in North Carolina?
I think our top agenda right now is affordability. Prices have gone up so high compared to where they were pre-pandemic levels, and finding the way to make sure we're working with cities, counties, state, and national government to find ways to bring the cost to build back down and to bring some of the zoning pieces and find property that builders can build on to bring that affordability to our region.
When someone's looking for a home, they oftentimes go to, Zillow, Redfin, right? And they look through the listings, but those listings are actually pulled from what the industry calls the MLS, the multiple listing service.
Yes.
Can you describe what that is? Because average Joe out there, they don't see that ever, right?
Right. The multiple listing service is where all realtors, all real estate agents put their information, and it provides a uniform, consistent, transparent way to share information. So think about it as you're going to look, everyone's getting the same information input and shared with the portals like Zillow and Redfin, and all of agents have their own websites as well. If we did not have that system to keep us accountable, to keep the transparency there, you would have information all over the board. So you might have to go to 5 or 10 different places to look for the proper information on listings. This gives one platform.
Okay, and then all these other websites, they pull from the multiple listing service, and that's where someone at home on their couch at 1 a.m. looking for a home, their dream home, that's what they're seeing is that listing that is getting pulled from the multiple listing service.
Yes, it's realtors and real estate agents inputting information so that the general public has access through public portals as well as through websites across the region. There are plenty.
And that's tedious. I mean, there are like pages and pages of different things that you can select when it comes to, the foundation of the home, the materials, the flooring, the what type of pipes, everything.
Yes, everything from the dirt to the rooftop.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you're presenting an accurate information so that consumers can make the wisest and best decisions. And then we also include things like property disclosures and information that is really important to understand when you're a home buyer and really important to share when you're a home seller trying to present the best light for your home.
It's a huge investment, and the largest investment that people will hopefully make in their lives is buying a home. So I would love to talk about the Charlotte area specifically, and I want to pull up, if we could, the latest market report. This is April of 2025, and this is the Charlotte region. So this isn't Charlotte proper, but as we're looking at all of this data, and anyone can view this, right?
Yes, you can easily go onto Canopy, our website, and pull down the data and what's happening in the marketplace. And real estate is local. So Charlotte region is one picture, but when you go into Charlotte proper or Matthews, Waxhaw, Iredell County, you're going to see something a little bit different.
And I can pull that up here. So this is Mecklenburg County specifically. And this is going to differ than the Charlotte area because it doesn't include those outlying areas, right?
Yes, there are 16 counties when you're looking at the Charlotte region that includes several from South Carolina. And then we have data that shows each county, city, zip code. So you're going to look at things a little bit different by your neighborhood, by your area, because of what's happening in there. And this is data that is protected data that is true and really transparent of what's happening in our community.
So as we look at these numbers, I'm looking at the year to date. So, comparing 2024, so that would be this whole column right here on the left-hand side, and 2025 underneath year to date, we see that the average sales price has gone up 6.4% in Mecklenburg County. Historically, Tiffany, is that good or is that bad? What do you view that as?
Historically, average is 3 to 5% is a healthy market. So we're still going up higher than what average is. But when you look at where we were post-pandemic for those first couple of years, we were at 14 to 16, some areas were 20, 21%. Overall, we went up over 60% in Charlotte. And so think about the equity that was created during that market, but also affordability became an issue.
So 6% is still good.
Yes.
What percentage would you say if someone's looking at some of this data that would be kind of maybe you hold off on purchasing a home, or would you? Do you still think that real estate at any percent is a solid investment?
Well, the last few years, we've continued to see appreciation climb. And we have had higher interest rates. And so we've seen not as many buyers out in the market, but it's still a seller's market overall because of days on the market is less than 6 months. We're at about 2.7, 2.8 months worth of inventory, I believe. And so if you're sitting on the sidelines, you need to think about when interest rates start coming down a little bit, we're probably going to see appreciation because all of the buyers that are sitting on the sidelines today are going to be out there. And so that means you're going to have more risk in your due diligence fees. You're probably going to pay a higher amount for the home than you would now. And you'll have that appreciation if you find a way strategically to make it happen today. You're going to start building that wealth now as opposed to postponing it to where there might be a frenzy when you see a little bit lower of an interest rate.
I thought maybe everyone was waiting for that first number for interest rates to be a 5. But do you think they are still waiting for that first number to be a 5? Or do you think they're starting to realize that maybe 6, somewhere in the 6s is okay, in the low 6s?
Well, we're starting to see more sellers put their houses on the market, which is an indication they're okay with a little bit higher of an interest rate for the most part. And there's always going to be a reason to move, and you're not going to wait in certain circumstances. So I don't think that 5 is that perfect number, but something in the really low 6s, and we're not showing that we're going to get to the really low 6s this year. It's likely going to be based on all indications and the economic indicators, probably 18 to 24 months down the road before we see really low 6s or even close to the 5s.
Why are we seeing with what happened with COVID and interest rates dropping to 3.5? Some people even got in the 2 range for their interest rates. Why here at the top of this report are we seeing new listings up 11, almost 12%? If you would imagine that most people probably would have refinanced around that time. So that's only 4 or 5 years of having that interest rate, but you're seeing a lot more listings. Any idea why, or is that normal growth around this time of year?
It's normal growth around this area. You've got to think that there are families having more children and they need places to put their children. You're thinking empty nesters, you're thinking retirees looking to transition. And for a while, it was just really tight and no one was listing their home. And all of a sudden, I think people are starting to think, you know what, now could be the time I need to make that transition so that I'm not continuing to wait and put my life on hold for the interest rate. You've got to think back when our parents and our grandparents were buying homes. They were buying homes 10% plus. My mother's first home in the 70s as a single mom, like 15.8%.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's unimaginable, right? This is just a couple credit cards. So we see days on market on this sheet going back to kind of the stats. Days on market, it looks like it's up almost 30%. Is that any reason for concern, or because I feel like we went from a day on market, one day on market, and you would, have 15 offers on some homes to a little bit longer. So is there a reason that we're seeing a little bit of that pullback?
It's more of a balanced market. When the interest rates go up and you start seeing more people putting their houses on the market, you've got to have a house that is ready to go in good condition at a reasonable price. And so we're seeing buyers have a little bit more time to make decisions. And
Which is nice.
That's more of a balanced market than the frenzy we saw. And so you make a more educated decision in that regard too, and a more thoughtful decision.
What, in your experience, are you hearing from your clients in terms of the change of dialogue from when it was a frenzied market to being able to have a little bit more time to make a decision?
My buyers are loving it. My sellers, not so much. And it's
like, why isn't it selling? You're like, it's been 3 days.
Yes. And it's talking about the patience and putting out a good product, a good number, and really marketing the properties and making sure that you're guiding your clients along the way and updating them as to what kind of feedback you're getting and how to really present the best product. And my buyers, well, they all are saying, well, how can I get the best deal? Do you think that they would give me closing costs? Do you think we can negotiate on price? So they're feeling a little bit more like they have room to negotiate and to breathe, really.
So that's exciting because I feel like we haven't seen that in the Charlotte market for a while. That buyers are feeling a little more empowered and confident in the process, which is really nice. So if someone is looking to purchase a home and this is their first home and they're looking at some of the areas, where do they start in terms of where to look? And is there statistically a neighborhood that is kind of an up and coming hot new neighborhood? Is there a way to track that?
Well, there's definitely statistics and data showing the homes that are selling the fastest or the most homes that are sold, and it's all over the board. When you look at showings and showing activity, Waxhaw and Matthews are leading there. Then you see Huntersville as well. You also, when you look at the number of homes sold, we're seeing things kind of in North Charlotte, right around Center City and Matthews. So we have so many great places to live in Charlotte and the surrounding areas. It's picking what makes sense for you. Where do you live? Where do you play? Where do you need to work? Or where do you have to go every day? And figuring out what part of the city you're going to enjoy most and starting to explore it, and then work with an expert advisor to really dial in what the numbers are and what it looks like to make sure it's the right place for you.
How do people look up if they want to know, I'm sure you get asked all the time, is this a good neighborhood? You probably can't say that, right?
Definitely not going to say this is a good neighborhood
or a
versus
bad neighborhood. Like
that
you would get in trouble, right?
Yes, that's fair housing. And we've always got to be cognizant of that. There are so many amazing places to live. People have got to immerse themselves in communities and find the right fit for them. There's not a one size fits all.
Yeah. And you can look up, crime reports and the schools and make sure that you're making an educated decision. What would be your advice for someone who is right now saving as best as they can, trying to get a bigger down payment, or considering maybe I should just step into the real estate market with what I've got saved up? What would be your advice to someone who's weighing that decision?
I would say talk to an expert advisor today for several reasons. One, you want to make sure that what you think you need to be doing is the right thing in terms of for the loan, in terms of your income taxes, how you're spending your money, your debt to income ratio. Then second, there are so many different programs out there. There are almost 83% of all homes that are listed up to $760,000 have down payment resource options. And so the house has to qualify in a lot of cases, and then the person has to qualify. Let's talk about if you qualify for that as well, because that could help you with payments for your down payment. It could give you credits that you don't even know exists that are out there. So talking early and strategizing, even if you're not ready today, planning for tomorrow is always important.
And a lot of times people are faced with PMI, private mortgage insurance.
Right.
Am I correct in that? And that's the insurance that the whoever the loan is with, they say, well, you're not putting down 20%. So we need to have that assurance that you got a little more skin in the game. So they tack on that little extra payment, right?
Yes.
To your loan. If someone's been paying that for a number of years, is there a way to get that taken off early?
There is in certain cases. So if you've gone with a conventional loan, you didn't put 20% down, once you feel like you've gotten the equity in the house, you can often go back to your lender and pay for an appraisal, or they may have an automated value method depending on the lender. And once you've proven that you do have the right ratio, they'll remove the PMI. Now, if you had an FHA, it depends on the year your loan went into existence and the rules and how much you put down to start with as to whether you can remove that or not.
Okay, but you don't have to wait until it's supposed to come off. You can take your appreciation over time and keep track of the other home sales in the neighborhood to kind of gauge where you're at and get that taken off a little bit early, especially if you own the home pre-2020, 2021 when we saw that appreciation, right?
Absolutely. FHA does have a little bit different of a standard, and there's kind of a stair step that you have to look to see if you will qualify or not, because some of those are for life alone until you refinance. But the conventional loans that are out there, the majority of them allow you to remove the PMI after you get past that 20% in equity.
Tiffany, I feel like this has been a very informative conversation, but I do want to ask you, is there any common misconception you feel like is associated with your industry?
I think a lot of people think that we just open doors. We absolutely open doors, but we also are there as your expert advisor guiding you through the process. It's typically the way most people build generational wealth or build wealth compared to renting. And you want to make sure you're not just going out thinking you know what you know and not realizing the intricate details of our contracts and how to deal with the monies and the negotiations that go through to a piece so that you can get positioned to build your wealth as fast as possible.
I think you gave me an idea for another episode we should have, just going through the contract, because it's very long. There are a lot of things to sign, and I think showing people that ahead of time will be a good conversation.
Absolutely.
So Tiffany, we'll have to have you on again sometime soon. Thank you so much for coming on Turnkey. And to everyone else out there, thank you so much for watching here on Queen City News Plus. We'll see you next time. Morgan Francis from Queen City News here. If you enjoyed watching this content, be sure to download and watch our full series of Queen City News Plus originals on our app. You can find Queen City News Plus using your streaming devices, including Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, and Apple TV. Just search the name Queen City News Plus. Your support will help us to continue our series. Thanks for watching.